Now, usually, I try to make videos that inspire you to travel or chase your dreams, and I'd much rather you watch those. But I do realize that a lot of times chasing your dreams end up becoming a business. So I thought I'd lend a helping hand, or two.
Okay, so net return on equity. I'm going to do two things in this video. The first one is an explanation of net return on equity, which in my opinion is the most important ratio of all of them, of all ratios. Okay, when we go over the DuPont identity, you will probably side with me as to its relevance. But the second thing I'm going to do is actually make an apology for the examples I've been giving when we go over ratios and when we go over any of the financial computations that we've been going over ever since the beginning of accounting. I've kept things very, very simplistic, and obviously my point has been to not confuse you, to make everything we talk about seem really organic and not really a big deal. But at the same time, I realize that you may start looking at some very complicated numbers. Like, you could be looking at net return on equity, which is really just your financial claim, your equity, the money you actually own. So the financial value that you own of your company. If you're looking for the net return on equity, you're really trying to see, as a result of all that you own in the company, how much are you able to put in your pocket at the end of the day? All right, that's all your net income over total equity is going to tell you. I hope that you realize when you look at ratios, so let's say net return on equity, just looking at the way this formula is. If the answer was 0.62, right? So far I've been giving a lot of examples and the answer is 5, or the answer is 10 to 1. The answer is half, 1 to 2. I've been giving very, very simplistic examples and just talking about them, but you may be looking at more complicated things. I want you to realize you don't have to panic. I feel guilty because I haven't taken that extra step. But hopefully you've been following along and realizing that if your answer is 0.62 for this ratio, it just means that you get to put 62% of your total equity in your pocket, right? So if I picked up profit margin here, this is net income over sales. You can go back to the ratio video and understand that if the answer is 0.42, that means you get to put 42% of your sales in your pocket. And that's your net income. Okay, so the numbers and the examples may get weird, but if you can follow the thought process that we've been talking about, understanding how we're supposed to look at liabilities, understand how we're supposed to look at assets. If you've been following along with the terminology, then it's not really a big deal. But at the same time, I understand that there's certain people who need to actually see things on the most complicated levels for them to actually get the most basic levels. And I apologize to those people if things have been a little difficult, but trust me, it's just very important for you to realize just what's going on naturally. These ratios are not here to confuse you. They tell you what they're all about. So let's go back to net return on equity because that's what this video is really about. But again, I really do apologize to anyone that may have been slighted as a result of me using very simplistic examples. I just don't want to take the chance, and not even to confuse other people. I'll be honest, I don't want to confuse myself. I don't want to be looking at a calculator and go off, my thought process, just kind of having a free-flowing conversation. I don't want it to sound all technical. I don't want to sound like a professor. I want to sound like your best friend trying to help you out. Okay? So just know where to find the values that represent the account titles that we talk about, and you'll be fine. Okay? If the result of this one came out to be 0.17, that would just mean that 17% of our equity we can expect to put in our pocket. That's what all ratios are telling you. Okay, that's if you want to look at it in decimal form and percentages, which a lot of people will. And I've just been focusing on the ratios because it's a very easy way of explaining what's going on. And we call them ratios, right? We say return ratios, but for some reason in classrooms we just go over percentages and decimals. So I'm just trying to look at things in a different way. And for some reason, right before this video, I felt really guilty about the approach because I realized how, I guess, the colloquial approach, the more standard approaches in society. And I don't want you to feel cheated out of an experience because you actually really do get it. If you've been following everything we've been saying, you understand what's going on. You may not realize it. And I think most people will actually realize it. But for those that don't, Don't feel like things are more difficult than they really are. You just have to be able to translate what's going on. Watch the ratio video again, all right? And then whenever you watch these videos, make sure you actually understand the story that the ratios are trying to tell you. And then when you watch the ratio video, how you're supposed to understand ratios, you should be able to put everything together, okay? So I apologize again, explaining net return on equity. This is a very, very important ratio. I'm going to simplify things, all right? And I'm always going to simplify things. So net return on equity, let's get excited. It's the most important of all ratios. The DuPont identity will tell you why. But I want to make as much money as possible, spending as little of my own money as possible, okay? Total equity is our blood, sweat, and tears. Even if we have to issue some shares, well, guess what? We have to make those shares valuable, right? We had to. Otherwise, no one was going to buy them. So when we made them valuable, all nice and shiny, an investment bank polished them up for us and put them out into the primary market. People bought them. We collected the money. The investment bank got a cut. We're not complaining about that, right? As a result of of saying that I own this amount of money, right? I'm using this money that I have, that I own, I should say, having is more assets that I own to bring more money in for myself. So I want this to be as high as possible. Okay, so let's look at an example. All right, so net income, I apologize how simplistic this is going to be. Let's say within a period we make $200,000 and we own $10,000. And also watch the equity multiplier video. It kind of relates to this, but this is by far the biggest kahuna, okay? Because this isn't magnifying to see how much assets, how much things we can have. This is new money that we get to put in our pocket. All right? So that's it. How much money am I getting to put in my pocket as a result of sacrificing my own blood, sweat, and tears for this company? So my blood, sweat, and tears is my own money, money that I have a claim to. I don't owe anyone this money. This is my money, and I'm using it to run this business. How much am I able to put in my pocket at the end of the day? In this ratio, this is going to be 20-1. All right? And that means for every dollar we own in this company, we got to put $20 in our pocket. That's awesome. That's a very good job. It's very simple. Okay, so now for other people that may be sort of confused, so this also means 20. If the result was 0.432, right? We would know we have to convert to percentages to make the understanding easier. So that'd be moving the decimal place. So it'd be 43.2%, right? And all that would say is that for every single dollar that we own in the company, we get to put about 43 cents in our pocket. We're earning a new 43 cents over a certain period, and we get to put that in our pocket. After we pay off all our bills, we get to put about 43 cents in our pocket. That's all this means, okay? So yes, the numbers can get really scary, but don't be afraid. You know what's going on. All right. So yeah, I mean this is really it. But again, emphasis on the fact that the net income over total equity, your net return on equity ratio is really important. Okay. Your whole DuPont identity is based on this existing. All right. And yeah, it's just money we get to put in our pocket over the amount of money we actually own. We want it to be as much as possible. But a caveat, all right, just because you're doing well and you're earning a lot of money and you're not using a lot of your money, your own hard-earned money to earn new money, it doesn't mean things are always going to be rosy. Because if all of a sudden your operations aren't going well, people aren't buying your stuff, well, a high net return on equity can also mean you're overly leveraged. That means if you stop putting money in your pocket, you may not be able to sustain the business because you owe a lot of money. So we can't get too carried away. But when things are going well, this is our best friend. This means where our blood, sweat, and tears, the money that we've earned, our hard work, is justifying us sustaining the business. Okay, we can have a lot of stuff, but how much of it do we actually own? Our total equity, and how much are we putting in our pocket as a result of owning all this stuff? Okay, so we can't get too carried away because it may mean that we're overly leveraged, but at the same time, when things are good, net return on equity is very, very kind to us. It means that we are very intelligent. We know how to take risks. All right, we know how to borrow money. We know how to run our operations efficiently. It just says so many nice things about us when things are going right. But when things are going badly, whoo, oh boy. All right, so net return on equity, very important, very important. And again, I'm very sorry for using very simplistic examples, but if you know what's going on inherently, you trust me, you can keep up with the most complicated examples.
Thank you so much for watching. Turning a dream into a reality usually ends up becoming your business. That is why we have the Helping Hands videos. Subscribe, like, and feel free to leave a comment below. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Fans of Kindness, our Facebook page, is also waiting for you. See you in the next video. Until then, be your best and never stop learning.